Hello all, welcome to the session. So let's wait for 2 more minutes for people to join. If not, we'll start the session. And in the meantime, can you guys confirm if you can hear me and can see the screen, the chat? Can someone confirm if you can hear me? Okay, so I guess we can start the session. So yeah, yeah. Once again, welcome to the demo session. So today is the day 2 of the demo. So I'll come back to this. And once again, the general information is the first 3 sessions will be free, including tomorrow's session. And the from the fourth session, it will be only for the paid candidates. Okay. There will be a new Zoom link sent to only for them. And the first 2 sessions recording will be uploaded to YouTube channel. So please do check that. Even today's recording will be uploaded. And please don't do any batch shifting or there is no refund either. And kindly join the WhatsApp channel if you are not part of it already. Let me give the link in the chat. So, so that you will get the latest information regarding if there is no session on that particular day or anything related to our course, it will be posted here. And our sessions all will be available in the Graphy, like the portal, logiclabstech.com. Okay. So I will even send this in the chat. So here, in your case, you will see a My Courses there. You just click that and you can see the courses and like all the notes, the recording, everything will be uploaded there. So yeah, and the Logic Lab support will be available only from Monday to Saturday between 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. IST. And these are all the support contacts. Please reach out for any query, like technical, non-technical, anything related to the course, you can reach out to them. Okay. So these are all the social media links. So that's fine. And today is the day 2 of the demo session. And today we'll be discussing about the booting process or booting procedure. Why this is an important one, and this would be the first question. It used to be, not these days. Okay, so it used to be the very first question in the interviews. It is kind of saturated now, like almost everyone knows this, but it is an important thing. Why? There is a reason like why it has been asked like for any interview take, especially for sysadmin role, you must know these process or all these steps. Why? Because let's say your server is hung up in one step. Like as per the UI, you might think that okay, it is stuck. But when it comes to your own machine, you will reboot. You can reboot multiple times until the system is back up. You can do that. But when it comes to production, the time is the where the money is, right? So how long the server is down, there is an SLA breach. Okay, so means like let's say the server is down for 3 hours, and let's say the business starts at 9 a.m. The server is down from 6 a.m. or something. The 3 hours downtime is unacceptable, right? So every 1 minute you spend after that, the company literally will pay to the customer or like some other company just to avoid the downtime. Downtime in the sense the server, how long that server is down. right? So obviously there are some failover servers. I'm giving a scenario in a critical way. There are multiple servers, for sure it will be there. But let's say few application is having only less capacity, then there is no choice, right? So you need to bear the downtime and work on it. So we should at least uh, pin down that, okay, what would be the issue or where it is stuck. So you should know the procedure. Then only you can like exactly know where it is stuck, right? So that's the main reason you must know all these steps. So you'll see one by one. Okay, so yeah, let's see from the basic. But before going to BIOS, let me quickly give a basic idea about the physical aspect of any system. Okay, so let me give yeah. Why MSI? Because that's the board in this system I'm using. So in Windows, where you will get the your motherboard info, everything. So MS info 32. You just do a Windows plus R. It will do the run, this run prompt, right? So you just type MS info 32, enter, and you will see all this information. You see B450 motherboard. Okay. So not only that, you will see the memory, how much memory it is there, and how much CPU it is there. Right. So what is the CPU model? Everything it will show. Okay. So yeah, this is the motherboard which I have. Let me show you what are all the components physically it is there and why you should know at least the basic idea of your motherboard. Because firstly, the disclaimer is this is not the same motherboard used in your data centers or like your server grade. This is not a server grade motherboard, but it is having the same components. The core components, it will be the same, right? So that's the reason. And the basic knowledge is more than enough. Okay, so how many power connectors are there? Or how many memory you can install, right? So at least the basic idea should be enough. Okay. So firstly, if you let me zoom out, so there is this is the ATX motherboard. ATX in the sense is a form factor. So this mother, there is even a small motherboard also is there. What the B450 has M80X. So M80X in the sense it will be the images don't give a justification for that. The size will be too small. Okay, so it is called as mini ATX motherboards, and it will be the same component, just the space will be cramped. Okay, so like there will be it will be costing you two slots only. Maybe memory also would be two, but almost the core components it must have all the components. Okay, so let's see what it is. So there is this motherboard is divided into two, north bridge and south bridge. Okay, so the north bridge basically has all your, so this half is your north bridge. Okay. So this what it has the main or the most important factor of your whole motherboard is CPU. Okay. Again, there are so many classes of CPU. Firstly, there are major rivalry is Intel and AMD. Okay, so almost anywhere, like Intel kind of dominates in the enterprise. Again, AMD is catching up, but still, since servers are uh, uh, been like for ages it will be there, right? So that's the reason Intel is a very old company. So they are the dominant or the monopoly in terms of CPU. Okay, at least the CPU. So yeah, this is the CPU and CPU where you place it, and there are so many grades or so many like overclocking, so many other. We will discuss why we see the BIOS. Okay, and these are all VRAMs. Okay, sorry, VRMs, and these are all your memory slots or called as DIMM slots. So what is this? How many slots it is? Four, right? And is it like what is the capacity? It again depends on your motherboard, how much it can withstand. So based on your cost, it will change. When it comes to servers, the each slot itself can handle at least 128 gigs of memory. One slot. Like that, you have four slots. Okay. So at least 128, even more than that. Obviously, the companies will pay a lot, right? So they can withstand that huge amount. But yeah, and this is the power slots for your uh, power like pin. This is the 8-pin connectors for your motherboard. Okay, so this is a 24-pin connector, which is the most important. And yeah, so that's the North Bridge. And this one is an interesting one, which is the SSD. Okay, so there are two types of storage. There are multiple, but the major one is two these days, which is storage type hard disk, hard disk drive, SSD. There is one more thing called the state drive. So what is HDD? Hard disk drive, and SSDs solid state drive. And why you need to know these? Because let's say if something went wrong, you should be in a position to understand whether it is an SSD or HDD. Because since the servers will be a bit old, some might have HDD also, some will have SSD. So it would be mostly a mix of both. Even in my system, it is a mix of both. Right? So you should be in a position to understand which one it is. So that's the reason you need to know the difference. So firstly, HDD or hard disk is nothing but uh, difference. So hard disk is actual disk will be there. Okay, so this is the very good image. Yeah. So this one, so you see there will be a literally a plate, okay, a disk plate, and this is the IO head or the actuator it is called as. So basically it will reach the intents or indentation in your disk. Basic we cannot see in our naked eye, but in microscope if you see you can see the indentations, and that is nothing but your data. Your data is basically blocks when it comes to storage, and each block is consist of a lot of one and zero. That is your machine language, right? So that's how it is. So it will find if there is any indentation, and yeah, it's a huge thing what it does, and it's been there for quite some time. Hard disks, right? So it is late 90s, I guess. From that time, it is popularized, and those days it used to be too costly, but later the cost was reduced, and the major downside is the actuator can fail anytime. Okay, and if let's say you drop accidentally, the plate is if there is any bend in plate or if there is a crack, your data will be lost. That's it. Okay, so it is very hard to get back those data if it is physically damaged. Okay, and the next one is SSD, which is currently the most important one. And SSD, as the name suggests, it is solid state drive, and there is no moving parts. See here, it will be moving, and in those days, you can even hear while the system is booting, or let's say you're copying a very huge file, you can actually hear the system or the disk, which is keep rotating, right? And even that is an issue. If the spindle is, it's a very rare scenario, but let's say the spindle is kind of loose, you will hear a rattling noise in the hard disk if there is any physical damage or something. Whenever it is copying or opening an application like that. So you will never hear anything from SSD since it is just a huge pen drive, you can call it as, right? So yeah, and that is also not that huge also. In physical factor, it is a small one, and this is a SATA based SSD. So now these are all the storage types, but there are the interface of the storage, like how we are going to attach that storage. So major one is S serial ATA. Okay, so that's a famous one. Even my system or any system you take, 90% it will be SATA only. Okay, and there is M.2 SSD. So M.2 NVMe SSD it is there. Okay, so M dot in the sense this is the M dot. You see, this is actually a storage. Okay, so here the storage, even this one I'm using. So this is the SSD which I use. So like this it will be placed. It is too small actually. The image doesn't give the justice for the size. It is very small, almost like your pen drive only. Okay, so yeah, this is one way of interface, right? So yeah, and you see this, it is NVMe, non-volatile memory express SSD. Okay, and this one in this image, it is a SATA SSD, this connector. So both actually shares the same connector, SATA, this HDD and SSD. Okay. And what is the downside of SSDs? Actually, the SSD, the read and write after few years, let's say again, you will upgrade mostly, but let's say you're using the same SSD for 10 plus years, there might be a slowness. You can observe that. Other than that, there is not much downside. Okay, so again, it depends on the vendor and all. But in companies, they mostly prefer Hitachi or like uh, a veteran in the industry, right? So a very huge vendors it will be used. Okay, fine. So coming back to here, so that's the storage. So this is SSD storage, like M.2 interface is here. This slots you see, right? Um, it is okay. Yeah, this there is around 6 slots are there. So these are all where your SATA slots will be connected. Okay, so yeah. Now, uh, the next one is your PCIe or your graphics card will be connected. Again, it is a controversial one whether graphics card is needed in your case or not. Like in that, whether that server deserves a graphics card based on the project, or it's not like once the project is allocated, the system will be bought, the infra or the data centers will be already there. You are the one who need to decide which system configuration you want. Just like you do in AWS or GCP and all, right? You need to see the configuration, whether that suits your project. Okay, so the configuration or the system will be already there. Okay, so that's the reason AWS are very successful, because you have a wide variety of infra or infrastructure so to choose from. So yeah. So this is where your graphics card, not only graphics card or your network, you can connect via PCI. It's a wide variety of peripherals you can connect via PCI slots. So you see around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 slabs are there. And so this is audio and all you can ignore when it comes to server grade. And these are all the IO for your case. Okay. So these mostly won't be there in your server grade motherboard, and your server grade motherboards are, let's say, Dell rack servers. So it will look like this. There will be lot and huge array of disks. You see, disk or the power. So everything will be inside kind of a this setup. Okay, so and if you just see the cost of it, it will be like you see, this is the minimum cost, and this is like an not the latest one. Okay, so the latest one will be more than 5 to even 6 lakhs INR. Okay, so that's what it totally depends on your configuration, and even the disclaimer is even you can set up a server or server farm like in your locality, but it costs a lot, especially the power is the main concern. Okay. But yeah, this is how it looks in your uh, the same motherboard. Everything will be inside this one rack. Okay, fine. So let's see this south bridge. So that's the most thing you most of the things, and this round thing is nothing but your batteries. Okay, fine. So this is the physical aspects, and these are all the I/O. Okay, so I/O is you can actually ignore that because anyhow the I/O you must connect the uh, which we show anyhow. Uh, yeah, so these are all the I/Os. Like you have the USB, VGA cable, HDMI. Obviously, this is only one is mentioned. One it has. Obviously, there will be two to three HDMI, and the USB and the audio. Ethernet is very important when it comes to servers. There will be separate switch to power multiple servers, the network especially. So yeah, fine then. So coming back to the first step, BIOS, right? So let me open Paint and explain that. So in so first thing we did the before BIOS, you just power on or off, right? So while you press the power button, what actually happens is post. So it is power on, send, test. Now what does that mean? So when it comes to post, so it will simply send a small voltage of current to every component. In this case, it is no components are attached. Let's say all the components are it is connected. So we need to make sure physically it is connected correctly. Let's say the DIMM slots are not seated properly, or it might be a faulty DIMM. That is also possible, right? So, or the graphics card is not seated correctly like that, right? So you need to make sure uh, physically it is correct, right? So the very first step itself, it will fail if it is not correct, right? So that's the reason it will send a small ampere of so small voltage of current to every component. And if it is failing here itself, you will see an amber light, right? So if that amber light is there, actually it is here, this one. Okay, so this amber light, you can see if something is off, means CPU is not right or some like it is in a very old firmware like that. Many reasons are there to uh, like the system might not turn on. There is a lot of reasons. So that's the very first step, by the way. So let's say your system turns on. The next step is your BIOS. So what is BIOS? Full form, it is basic input output system, right? So what does that mean? So like you need to make sure what are all the input outputs you are physically connected, but you need to see the actual information of it, and you need to see the temperature of your system, and temperature plays a vital part in your data center everywhere, right? Why? Because that can be a negative thing, negative in the sense the airflow if it is not right, or the fans are not working, let's say a scenario, then your CPU will heat up and it can even do a physical damage to the CPU. The same thing goes for any component. Okay, so that's the reason you will have or you need to monitor the BIOS. Again, I'm giving an MSI reference since, yeah. Okay, so this is the MSI. It is, you won't see the same UI in your production servers and all. So this is a gaming UI, I guess. But yeah, it is easy for you to see what are all the things in your BIOS. Okay. So firstly, the motherboard information, CPU, memory info, how many voltage it is using currently, right? So all are real-time data, right? So if let's say here itself, you can see if the memory one slot is not connected rightly, the size will be very less, it will show, right? So like that, easily you can evaluate here only. And the most important one is boot priority order as well as the CPU or memory speed. Okay, so now why it is important? Because in order to, many people won't mind, especially as an end user, that your CPU speed or the frequency at which your CPU is running. So in my case, it is 3 gigahertz, and I can push this to even 4, and I need to do adjust it with the power supply as well. So it will do a lot of power draw will be there, and whether my CPU can handle that, I even need to make sure that, right? So if it is handling, I can even push this one till at least even 3.7 gigahertz or something, right? So it totally depends on your CPU, which model you bought and all, but it's a separate topic. Okay, so changing the frequency, why we need to change that? To attain the full potential of your CPU or even memory. So this is a very base memory, sorry, memory speed. So you can go till nowadays even 6,000 megahertz it is there, which is crazy. 6,000, even 7,000 memory are being in the market. So yeah, and this one, right? So your SSD, the speed at which this disk will be spinning is 7,200 RPM. Okay, so that's the speed. Fine. So coming back to this one, so the temperature you must monitor, and even the fan information, like everything will be monitored in the BIOS. So the boot priority order, what it is, right? So you need to, you're connected multiple. Okay, let me do this one so that you can easily relate it with. So I have 3 disks. Okay, if I go to my task manager, you see 0, 1, 2. So this 0 being the hard disk, and it is around 1.8 TB hard disk. Okay. So this is an SSD, which is an SATA SSD. Um, it is 224 gigs, and the last one is NVMe SSD. Okay, so this is 239. Now you see 3 are there. So which one to be prioritized? Right? So I need to boot to the machine. What is the first thing I need to prioritize? Obviously, when it comes to Windows, C partition where I install the my OS where it is installed, it will prioritize that, and you see the boot. So this is the actual boot partition. Now, uh, where do I specify that? And this is where you will specify the boot priority order. So this is the list. So you will have all the removable disk like USB, CD drive, or you have multiple disks like this. Everything you'll be giving in the list, which one to be booted first, and the list follows. Okay, so that's the next one. Okay, so this is the most important one, and in your BIOS. Okay, so this is the only place where you can choose that. Okay, and even still much more you can do with BIOS, but let's move to the next one. Okay, so because BIOS itself, it can be for another 2 hours. We can go over that because that many concepts are there. So let's say if it is an hard disk. Next thing is SSD, and next thing is removable. Okay, so let's say you choose on the hard disk. Now this is the hard disk. Here, the next step is called as MBR. Okay. Now, what is MBR? And actually, you will never choose or you will never see this option because this is a software concept. Okay, so even in Windows, whether it is an MBR, no. So, what is MBR, by the way? It is called as partition style. Okay, so in Windows, the partition style is GPT. So, okay, so firstly, what is MBR? It is called as master boot record. Okay, so the next thing is GPT. It is GUID partition table, right? So now, why Linux? It actually Linux prefers NDR. Not only Linux, many of the legacy servers. So what is legacy server? And what is legacy in general means? It is like a lineage of, uh, let's say, a person has a huge legacy means he's been there in that particular industry or so for so long, right? So that's the same here. What legacy servers means, uh, like the server has been there for at least 20 years or even 30 years, right? So it is not being discontinued. Okay, so like that, so many servers are still there. Like an example would be some HP Tandem servers. Like these are all like from late 1990s. I came across one server which is like 1991. Okay, so still it is working. So like that, that's what like very old servers uh, is called as legacy servers. And those servers also will have NDR as a partition, default partition style. Okay. And GPT is compared to MBR, it is the latest one. And especially Windows is pushing GPT like anything. Okay. So even in without your concern or anyone's concern, GPT is the partition style in Windows. So now what is the difference between MBR and GPT? Okay, so we will discuss that in the disk management section. But anyhow, for the time being, the basic ideas, you can create only 4 primary partitions under MBR, but under GPT, you can create 128 primary partitions, which is insane, right? So that's the major difference. So in MBR, basically you can create 1, 2, 3, and 4. And under that fourth one, you can create logical partitions, and that you can create as much as you want. But in GPT, you need not worry about that because under one disk itself, you can create 128 primary partitions. It's no one does, right? So those many partitions, no one create. By the way, these are all the one, two, like the two partitions are under this disk. This disk, this actually it's just 17 MB. You can ignore that. But yeah, in this case, only one partition is there. This disk has two. Again, this will be used by the system. So yeah, like that it is. Okay. So that's the partition style. So MBR it is. So under MBR, or let's say your hard disk will be like this, okay? And there will be lot of tracks, and it will be segregated like this. Lot of sectors will be there. And is it a physical one? Obviously, no. It is a virtual sectors and lot of tracks like this. Okay, so again, how many tracks? It totally depends on the size of the hard disk. Yes, you need to know that because anytime you like, let's say something fails in the hardware, you need to at least have the basic understanding what is the failure or what is the component it failed, right? So obviously you'll get that from log. So you need to drive or you need to assure which uh, component it is, right? So you should have the basic understanding of a hardware. For sure you need to, because you will be directly in contact with the uh, hardware or like physical, sorry, the field engineer. Okay, so who will be in the data centers. So you need to direct them which part or if something fails, what it is, right? So yeah, at least the basic idea you must have. Okay, so yeah, let's say this is the sector which you selected. So this is the boot sector. Again, as I mentioned, you will have a lot of sectors. Okay, like it will be thousands of sectors, and each sector will be like 10 MB. Okay, so it totally depends on the file system which is being used, and what is the file system and all we'll discuss later. Okay, but yeah, that's the information you will see in this one. And what is the next step it will boot? It will boot browser. So that is the information it will be in this boot sector. And if it is failing here, so basically your system will boot loop. So it will reach here. Let's say if the grub is it is a very rarest scenario, it will be corrupted. But let's say hypothetically it is corrupted. Okay. So in that case, it will boot loop. So it will boot here. Since grub is corrupted, it will again restart, again boot here. So yeah, it will do that boot. So you need to fix, or you need to see if the hard disk has a failure rate, or the grub is failing. So you need to understand. Okay. So the next step is grub. So grub is an interesting, or it any system will go through a grub. So what is grub? So grub full form is Grand Unified Bootloader. And this bootloader term you might have came across in, let's say, Android or any OS. You might have came across. What is a bootloader, right? So it is a sequence or the instruction set for your system. So basically, your hard disk or the storage level, you're good. You have the OS and information, all are there. But what is the next step the system need to go through, right? So in order to boot the mission, what are all the things it need to go through? So that's in order to confirm that your grub is there. And in this case, you have multiple operating systems in the same hard disk. Let's say you are having the hard disk like this, and under that, actually you can have more than even 3 or even 4 OS under same hard disk. Let's say the hard disk is like 10, let's say 5 TB. Okay, so 5 TB hard disk. Under that, you have uh, Windows 11. Okay, so that is Windows 11 under that. And let's say you install Hackintosh, like some Mac OS is also there, right? So, and you have like Arch Linux or some Linux version is there. Let's see. Okay, so Linux 9.5. Okay, so like that, you have multiple OS under single hard disk. So which one I need to boot? You need to decide that, right? So that's the screen. Because your OS cannot boot to multiple, sorry, your system cannot boot to multiple OS. That's impossible because it will share the same components. Let's say your keyboard is there. The keyboard driver your keyboard is the same, physically it is the same one, but the driver will change from Windows 11, or how the driver is consumed, it will be changed, right? So that's the reason you need to choose which operating system, right? So that's the screen. And you might have seen this screen. Okay, so let me show that graph screen in Windows and Linux. So you might have seen like this, right? So here Ubuntu is there, Windows, and this is a very old one. Windows NT and even XP it is there. And you might have seen this one in Windows, Windows 10 and Ubuntu. This screen. So this is the dual boot, right? So two OS are there. So you can even do a triple boot. It doesn't matter nowadays. The grub is way functional that you like this. You can use like you see around how many OSs are there? 6 OS are there under one system. It is possible. Okay, so that's what like this. We have Windows and Endeavor OS. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is this is the grub screen, and you must go through this. And now you may question that, okay, what only if I have multiple OS, I need to go through this? What if I have only one OS? Still, your system will go through this because the system cannot predict that, okay, you will install a new OS or not. So anyhow, it will go through a graph so that it will make sure what is the next step it need to go through, right? So the instruction set will be there and everything will be kind of aligned in grub screen only or grub functionality only. Okay, so that's the information you see there. Let's say you choose the Linux one over Windows. Okay, so let's this is yeah. Okay. So the next one is the most important one, which is kernel. So as I told yesterday, kernel is like a heart of your system. Yeah. So next is the kernel. So why it is important and what would be the what would happen if kernel is broken or something, right? So kernel is too important that the system will do a boot loop again. Okay, so yeah, the kernel does have this information, your driver info, right? So it will load not your UI. So the component which drives that UI, that is also will be loaded here. Like kind of GUI. Let's say you have a GUI, that component all will be loaded in kernel only. Okay? And your process, right? So all these things it will be processed here. This information means this management also. So everything will be loaded in the kernel, and you'll be imagining, okay, kernel is the most important. Then what would be the size of the kernel? And the size will be just 20 to 40 MB. That's the maximum size, but this has all the important libraries and even library management it does. Okay. So like that, kernel plays a vital role. And if the kernel is down or something mismatch in the kernel or something happens, it will go to kernel panic mode. And again, there might be a data loss in some case, and your system can't even boot. So you will be in the position to diagnose that and fix it. Okay, so that's the important one. So yeah, and that's the reason kernel will be upgraded separately. It won't be patched along with the rest of the application. Let's say you're having let's say 800 applications, your kernel will be excluded from that and only kernel will be upgraded in some cases. Okay, why? Because the kernel is very vulnerable. Okay, so it can even break the system. Once it is upgraded and it is not turning on, you are the one who is responsible, right? You should make sure system is back online, fully functional, right? So that's the reason kernel will be upgraded separate, just to be on safer side. Okay. So the next one is again we'll come back to kernel every now and then, but yeah, as of now, just understand it is an important aspect. The next one is the uh, yeah, your init process. Now, what is init? Right, so you figured out the kernel is working fine. Now, um, what are all the process? So basically, the process, everything will be initiated here. Okay, so next thing is which way my system need to be booted. Either it is a CLI based or a GUI. You actually have an option. Even in most people might not know, but in Windows also you have an option called as system config. System configuration. If you just type it in the start and you see boot, and from here itself you can choose safe mode, and you have minimal network alternate shell. And if you select this no GUI boot, what it will be? There won't be an UI. Okay, so your system will be just like a command prompt, just like this. Your whole screen will be just your command prompt like this. Okay, so that's this option system configuration. So you see, if you select this and if I click on apply and OK, so if I restart my system, it will directly go to the command prompt. Obviously, we can revert that, but still in your Windows also you have a non-GUI or a CLI option is there. Okay, and you have safe boot. So like network, if you select minimal, the network driver itself won't be loaded, guys. Why? Because let's say there is a malware attack, or let's say a software needs network, and you need not sorry, needs a network to uninstall, then you can use that. But let's say one software is very vulnerable that if you connect to the internet, it is going to hung state or some random issue with that software. Then you don't have a choice. You need to go to safe boot and select minimal so that your network won't be this network itself won't be loaded. Okay, so that you can uninstall, and it will have only the softwares. Like it won't have this 7-zip or some third-party softwares. It will have only the system softwares, and you can remove that. Is there an option like this in Linux? That's what called as init. Okay, so in init, it is not the same wordings or same options per se, but it does the same concept. Okay, so init process, init 0, it is called as shutdown. So if you just initiate init 0, and let me quickly show in the VMware. So if I let it go. So if I just type init 0, enter, so it will initiate the shutdown sequence. You see, my system is kind of frozen, and you see, system is shutting down. Okay, so that is the init 0, and init 1 means single user mode or emergency. Now, this is an very interesting one. Why? Because why it is called a single user, and like what is the actual reason? Because who will be a single user? That would be a question. Because in enterprise, there is no single user per se, right? Because anyone can log into that machine anytime. So there is no restriction, right? But the single user means the one who has access to the console, like basically the guy who have the access to power on, power off, suspend, or change the settings of the system, right? So basically, in this physical aspect, who will be the single user? The field engineer in the data center. So data center, let's say it is in somewhere Singapore or some random location. The physically one guy will be there, right? To maintain that servers. So he is the single user mode. He can only use that single user mode. Okay. And you can also use that, but in the remote console, it is most cases it won't work. Okay. So single user won't even connect to the internet. So there is no need for internet for me to do any of these. Right. So this is, and I have the privilege to edit all this thing. Only if I turn on my system, anyone can connect to the system remotely. This is before even turning on the system, right? So that is the single user mode. Okay, so that's the init 1 it is. And mostly you won't keep that. Okay, so this is like, let's say if there is any emergency and all, it will be in init 1 state. So init 2, it is the one which I told, the minimal one in Windows, right? It is the same. So here it is uh, multi-user without. Okay, so and init 3, which let me show because both are almost the same. Just init 3 will be with network, and init 2 is without network. So now what it is? So here, as I told, the network itself won't be loaded. Okay, so in init 2, if you select it, And whether you will select that in your production service, maybe not. Okay, so this is the unused option. Like you will never ever use this one init 2. And init 3 is the standard one. And this is the no GUI will be there, or it is the, let me certify it. Like it is the CLI. Okay, and this is kind of a standard one which will be used. So init 3 is the standard one. Okay. So next one is init 4 is not there. So I'm not sure why, but yeah, they didn't prefer init 4. And init 5 is called as X11 or this is the GUI. Okay, so in my case, if I turn on the system, you can see the init 5 is the current init state. Okay. And the last one is init 6. This is called as reboot. So if I just type init 6 and enter, the system will actually reboot. Okay. So these are all the init levels. Okay. So any one it can be. And the next option is also related to init, which is called as a run levels. So now what is a run level? It is kind of related to your startup services in your Windows. You just go to task manager and click on startup. So these are all the third party softwares, which is in my case, few are enabled and a few are disabled, right? Now, what it means, let's say I want Spotify to be loaded along with my OS, means it will boot, your OS will be booted along with that Spotify service also will be started. So that's what it means by startup services. Okay. So like that, let's say I have some services like web server or important services when it comes to enterprise that can or that must be prioritized, right? So that will be booted along with the OS. So that's where you will be placing it in the run level. There will be a separate path under which you will place it, and it will be under etc init.d. Mostly you will place it here, or you can even place it under this path. etc rc.d, rc that run level. So etc rc.d and the run level. So let's say rc3. 3 is the common one, right? So 3.d slash, let's say HTTP or some services, right? So their binary will be loaded. So HTTP dot some configuration, right? So like that, it will be placed under this rundown. So mostly you won't come to this like section like anytime, but that's how it is. Okay, so yeah. And lastly, your system is booted. So from the time you power on your system till you're seeing the lock screen. So these are all the steps it is going. Okay, so let me quickly show you each and every step in the system level, and then we'll move on to the installation part. What are all the So I'm just pressing F2. Okay, so this is the BIOS screen. So BIOS of my VM, and in your case also, if you install VMware workstation and your RHEL, you'll see the same BIOS, Phoenix BIOS, and the same thing, but it will be in a very outdated layout. But yeah, this is the same layout in your servers also. You will see work environment. Okay, so your system time and okay. So here you can even set a password for your BIOS and all. And this is the boot priority order. You see, removable disk is the first one. Hard disk, if I expand that, in my case, since this is an old VM, I have like too many hard disks connected. But yeah, this is the NVMe is the boot or my OS disk. Remaining all are my uh, like some third party. Not sorry, not third party. Some disks is used for LVM and all. Okay, so yeah, and lastly CD drive and network boot. Yeah, okay, that's it. So after BIOS, what it is? So now again, it will do a reboot, and this is your grub screen. Okay. So here you see the same OS only is mentioned twice, but there is a catch here. So the very first one is the actual OS. The next one is the rescue mode of the server. Let's say your boot image itself is corrupted or your kernel itself is corrupted. You will go to the rescue mode and rebuild that. Okay. So press E to edit it. Here you see Linux. This is the actual kernel. VM Linux, VM Linux hyphen some version name, and the root. Basically, that's where your whole system's path is slash. And yeah, so this is initramfs is the boot image. So even in your Android phones, let's say you are like you used to install some other, or you need to restore the stock ROM in your Android phone, you will see that boot image quite often because that's where all the instruction set is, like what we should do or the system should do once the system is powered on, right? So all those things will be under the boot image. So same thing goes here also. So that is an important one, and that is what mentioned over. Okay, so press escape and enter. Now this you won't see the MBR. Okay, so it is within the system. The next one is a kernel. Yeah, you'll see these three dots. Just press down arrow if you see the three dots, and you see everything. It is showing as okay. And what is this? This is a very huge lines, right? So, or a lot of information is well processed. Basically, that's like making sure all the components are connected, all the services are started. And if you see a failed over there, that means that service is not started. You need to diagnose that. And do we see that information later? Yes, we do see that in the log. It will be logged. Okay. So now you see the lock screen. So before lock screen, these many things happens. Okay? So where which part it fails, you need to understand. So that's the reason you need to know all this. So lastly, you go to the lock screen. Okay. So any doubts in these steps, guys? I know it's a new information for you. So yeah, Shakti, you're unmuted. We can't hear you, Shakti, if you're speaking. Okay. So the next one is the okay. Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was not able to unmute. Okay. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so, uh, so I joined a few minutes late. I don't know whether did you go through the VMware? You were showing something on VMware, but
No, not yet. Just no. VMware we will discuss later. Okay. So tomorrow's
okay,
session we'll discuss the installation part. I will explain what is VMware, why we are doing this, like virtualization, containerization. Tomorrow we'll see that. Okay.
okay.
But
This
just to show you the booting process, I just shown the VM. What are all the steps it goes through? The steps we saw here, right? The same thing I shown in the system level. So yeah.
okay. Next one is like you have this init 1, 2, 3, all those stuff, right?
Huh?
So is this do we have to configure them? Uh,
No. Yes, actually, by default, it will be under one init level. Okay, so mostly it will be either init 3 or 5. So you need not actually configure per se, like it will be either 3 or 5. So either it is a GUI mode or CLI mode. But that's what, like, so if you just type a run level, you see N5 means it is the run level 5. Why run level 5? Because this is a GUI, right? So you need not configure. The system will already take it. But let's say you want to restart your system, you can do via init 6 or so, like that. Mostly you won't select init 2 or init 1 also, mostly you won't, okay? But just for the
Okay.
information, I'm giving that.
Okay. Is this similar
Yeah.
to in Windows? They used to say like safe mode and so many modes. Is this something similar?
Yes, 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 exactly
Okay.
the same thing. So,
Okay.
advanced boot option, if you see in the Windows, you will see this one, right? Startup settings.
Right.
The Yeah, exactly the same one. Yes. So enable safe mode, disable driver signature enforcement. So these are all the same thing. So enable safe mode means in safe mode also you won't have some third party softwares like this Bitwarden or Arc browser. Nothing will be there. Only the default OS config will be there. Easily you can uninstall some softwares which is literally cannot be uninstalled like some malware and all. You can do that easily in the safe mode. Hence, it is called as safe mode, right? So, yeah. So it's exactly the same. Yeah, safe mode it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
One last stupid question.
Yeah.
So, so is see data center the server will be there somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
we won't have access to data center.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're working remote, I mean, or even in office, like
Mm-hmm.
accessing these servers, will
Mm-hmm.
we be able to see this, or only if we are next to the server?
Okay, that's a good question. So now you will be seeing the console. So Dell, okay, so let me give a Dell ILO console. So this is a remote console you will see like this. One second, let me show you the UI. So not only Dell. Okay, so uh, sorry, it is Dell or even HP ILO. Anything is fine. So like this, you will see all the information in the separate console view. Okay, so there will be a actual site which is since it is a physical server. So if it is a VM server, you have VMware admin. There will be a separate team just to maintain the VM, right? So they have the console view like this, like they can change the settings and all. But when it comes to the physical servers, like I shown you the rack server, right? So in those case, you have the vendor's official site itself. So each server will be hosted with or you can access that remotely. So you can even boot the server remotely. So through this,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so there will be actually there will be a PCI card connected to the machine, uh, and you will see all this information through the remote only. You need not go there physically, right? So
Oh,
that's the,
okay.
yeah, storage, everything will be visible. Like even the temperature, logs, especially the physical logs. But some cases, some teams might not have access to this. There will be a separate team for just managing this infra. So that's what. As a
Oh,
sysadmin, there might be, again, it depends on the company and the team. But some companies won't allow the sysadmin to see this view. They will raise an incident and that incident team will have access to these. Okay, so like that it is. But yeah, that's how it is. Like Dell UI is this one. Again, the UI I'm showing is it's a bit older versions, but yeah, all the information will be there. So remote console you can open and you can see everything will be there. Okay, so yeah,
okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah, that's what. So yeah, Dell ID Rack, HPE, HP Enterprise, like so many vendors are there. I'm just giving the major one. So Dell, HP is the major player, especially when it comes to enterprise also. So yeah, that's the thing. And okay, so the system configuration for your VM. So let me quickly uh, system requirements. Let's say you are going to install in your local system for our lab. Okay, so if you want to do that, it is bare minimum. Okay, so you can install in any system. The CPU count or the core count should be at least one core should be available. So let's say your CPU count is mostly it will be four. So let's say your laptop is a very old one. The CPU core count you see, right? So how did I went here? So just go to task manager. Right click your taskbar, you will go to task manager, or you can even go to start and type task manager. So if you are in the task manager, go to performance and you will see CPU. Okay, here the course count, right? This count is very, very important, guys. Okay, so we will basically allocate this one core to that VM. So again, it's not like permanent allocation or something. We will allocate that for the time being. Let's say this VM is running, right? So as of now, this one core from this one will be allocated. Let's say, um, yeah. So now seven only will be usable for my base mission. So one will be virtually used here. So that's what we will see tomorrow. What is virtualization, containerization, and those things. Okay. But yeah, like that, your memory also should be at least 8 gigs. So even in my case, you will be seeing like it is more than 90%, but yeah, at least 8 GB it should have. If you're using a very old laptops, it will be 4 GB. So I don't recommend you to use a VM under that uh, config. Okay, so the next one is your disk. Obviously, everyone will have disk of at least 20 to 50 GB. Also, better like 50 GB of free space. And in order to install the OS, just 20 GB. That is more than enough. Okay, so 20 GB of this, obviously everyone will have. So that's the basic system requirement. No, nothing else. Okay. So yeah, if your system is eligible for this, obviously everyone's system will be. And let's say your system is like your enterprise, or let's say you're working in a company, you don't have your own personal laptops, then you can use AWS or GCP. Is there any requirement for AWS or GCP? Nothing. You just need to uh, have an account. Okay, so how to create an account, everything we'll discuss tomorrow. The installation part and the configuration part we'll discuss. How to install and everything. I'll be providing the link. So yeah, better you can download it tomorrow. Okay, so I will show you how it is. So yeah, okay, so it's already time. So let's see in tomorrow's session, guys. And today's recording will be available in the YouTube channel. And if you're fine with my way of training, so do join the course. So let me get the course link as well. Okay, so yeah, and this slides, it has all the information which I told in detail. Okay, so the run level, init, kernel, grab, everything. Okay, so yeah, and this drive link. Okay, better let me not send me now. So please do bookmark this link if you're joining this course. So that because anything related to our course will be posted there. Okay, so please do bookmark this in your browser. Okay. So yeah, guys, then that's it for the day. See you in tomorrow's session. Thanks all. Have a great day. Bye bye.